Hello there, welcome to What the Hell Is This? Now, in a week that I've already reviewed or talked about Torque, and that's not the What the Hell Is This film, you must know that there's something else out there that I saw that was much more deserving. Yes, this is The Running Man, the Stephen King adaptation that is just terrible. It's just awful. Now, King wrote this as Richard Bachman because basically he wrote the novel, it didn't get published, and then he released it later as under Richard Bachman name. It was in the Bachman books, and it's along with The Long Walk, which is going to be a film soon, released in the same year as the remake of Running Man, or not a remake, a new adaptation of Running Man. So that book of unpublished stuff actually is actually getting some love at the moment. And essentially the film went through a lot of hardship. With fired directors, various script rewrites, some incomprehensible decisions made in the film, and end up released a film that no one was quite a fan of, including the star Arnold Schwarzenegger. So what happened was that King wrote the book as then published under Richard Bachman name. Because the idea was good, the rights were bought, and the film was developed to be made. It went through a few different incarnations, the way these things do, and it ended up with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, this happened twice in the late 80s. There was The Running Man and there was Total Recall. Schwarzenegger got control of Total Recall with the rights, and he managed to protect it and bring in Paul Verhoeven, and they made a really good film that's still watched today. The Running Man, Schwarzenegger was just the leading actor. He was not the power base on the film. So things happened he could not have any control of, so he just had to, just turn up, do his job and go home. And just watch the film fail. Because this was released in the same year as Predator, which was the Arnold film that really worked, and the film that kind of was the next big thing in his career. Like, Schwarzenegger was kind of a workhorse at this point. And he'd done Conan, he'd done Terminator, everyone's still waiting for Terminator 2 to eventually arrive. He'd done Commando, it was a big hit. He'd done the Raw Deal, which was less successful, but still did okay. But it was just not as good a film. Commando was a fun film, that one wasn't. He'd had to suffer through Red Sonja as part of a contract with Dino De Laurentiis. But his career was on the up, but it was still bit shaky to a degree that he hadn't done enough hits yet to really establish himself. So he did. This was one of his kind of earlier mega budget films, where you get the feeling this was the film he learned how not to do a mega budget film, and used his knowledge from this failure to do better films. Because Commando, he was working with people that he seemed to understand each other. There was Joe Silver produced it, and he'd gone and do Predator with Joe Silver, and this sense of they understood exactly what the film was, what it needed to be. Well, because they knew it was a ridiculous film and it was silly, but it worked. This one, it was like try to be serious, but it was made by people who didn't understand how to be serious. So let's try to do a film about a fascist dictatorship, and so it should now be very relevant. But when you watch the film, it just feels silly and stupid. So originally the director was Andrew Davis, who would later on do The Fugitive, Under Siege, and some other films. Andrew Davis is a director who has had ups and downs. He's had some massive success of The Fugitive, but he also had Chain Reaction, the Keanu Reeves film, which didn't do very well. And his film career just kind of fell away at some point. He was a exciting action director in the late 80s, early 90s. And he was brought in, he started his career Steven Seagal with some films. And he was basically brought in to this film to make a kind of gritty, exciting adventure movie with some political themes. But the film started off in a tough location, which was this quarry, which is the only stuff that Davis shot, and it's the best stuff in the film by a mile. But it's a quarry, and quarries are hard to film in, so it went behind schedule to start with. But it was one of those things. The film was just starting. It wasn't really. It's like films sometimes start behind schedule, and then you catch up as they go along. It's just one of those things. But it was also, I think, he was doing stuff that the studio wasn't very happy with, or the producer wasn't very happy with. So they fired Davis and they replaced him with Paul Michael Glaser, who was in Starsky and Hutch and had become a director. And his big film before this was Band in the Hand, which is a dumb as hell film. I enjoy it, but it's dumb as hell. But he was not the right director for this, and Schwarzenegger later complained that he basically shot it like a TV movie. Which he does. There's no way around it, he does. So the film was doomed from then on. It also had a problem where just the pacing was awful after a certain point, and all the effects looked kind of dated, and the camera was very locked down, and it did look like a directed from someone who'd watched science fiction movies in the 60s and 70s and watched a lot of cheesy ones, and he didn't understand that you don't shoot sci-fi that way in the 80s. It moved on. This was like pre-Star Wars, like early 70s sci-fi movie style, like Soylent Green, and they just didn't work for what they're doing. All the acting's over the top. Yaphet Kotto in it, and Yaphet Kotto was a really good actor. And he's trying his best, but he's like, I think he's been given direction to just to camp it up or whatever he's doing, but he's still trying to take it seriously. Schwarzenegger's trying to take it seriously within the confines of what he's doing, and yeah, he gets paid to do the cheesy one-liners once in a while, but he's still trying to take it seriously to a degree. There's a plot there that already been worked out, like this is what we're doing, this here, and here, but it felt like the plot, the script wasn't quite finished when it started shooting, which comes across the further it goes on. Now, after Davis left, you feel as the producers did what they wanted, which was to make a much gaudier film. So the Running Man TV show became this, what can we described as Batman and Robin before Batman and Robin. Because all the Running Man in the novel was the guy has to survive the streets, and there's hunters after him, and the hunters are going to try and kill him, and it's very serious and they're very deranged. But he has to also interact with people, and that's part of the charm of the Running Man, is like he has to survive in the real world against these hunters. He survives a certain amount of time, and he can survive, and he gets money. And this one, it's basically that's part of the city that's been abandoned, and they've put all these traps in the city, so it becomes like the Gladiator TV show, but with violence. And that's made before it, but since they saw this, they thought, we're going to do a TV show of that, and not see it's my criticism. But all the hunters are basically strong men in ridiculous costumes that look like comic book costumes, but done for live action without any ability to see they look ridiculous. Schwarzenegger, for most of the film, wears this spandex costume that looks stupid on him. All the other running men or running women have the same costume, and they all look ridiculous, so it becomes campy almost instantly as soon as they put the costumes on. They've got a style for the rich people that is kind of slightly futuristic and a bit tacky, but it would have been fine if it was that's just the excesses of the rich in this society and this fascist regime where you can't complain or anything, so they've just become a consumer society. That would have been fine. if they'd taken the Running Man stuff seriously. Instead, they go even further. So there's a certain point in the film where it's still reasonably okay, where you get the villain Killian, who's the a game show host for the Running Man, who's evil and horrible, but played by Richard Dawson, who's the best part of the film. And you've got all these dancing girls and all the rest of it, and it's like, okay, that's a bit much, but it's still fine for the idea of consumerism going mad. Very much an 80s criticism, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. But when you go to the Running Man thing, when Schwarzenegger's on the run, he's in this costume with the woman who betrayed him and the two prisoners, one guy for another geek guy. They're in all these costumes that look stupid, and then the hunters come in these costumes that look ridiculous. There's one guy, he's electrical, and he's stood up on all these colours and all these lights, and it's like, this is the stupidest thing ever. He can't move in this stuff. Anyone could beat him quite easily. There's a guy whose weapon is a stick with, a sharp, basically with the ice hockey, but the bit that we hit with is just basically a big sharp boomerang, and that's his thing. That's how he kills people. He gets them in a nice area and attacks them and kills them. It's just so stupid looking. He's easily beaten. There's a guy driving around in this car that's dragging Schwarzenegger, and he gets killed with a chainsaw, cut in half with a chainsaw. So the film, even though it's campy, has lots of blood. So who's this made for? But worst of all is the director has no idea how to shoot this stuff because it's so ridiculous looking, and he shoots it wide without any sense of how do they look walking around, how do they move. Instead, it's just shot wide, and you just see how ridiculous they look all the time. And it's like, this is like, feels like test footage that they would shoot to see how it looks, and then say, maybe we should change the costumes, or maybe we should use these angles. No, instead, that's some of the shots for the film, and the film just looks ridiculous, and it just feels like they've rewrote it to make it more and more ridiculous. Now, Steven De Souza, who wrote this, has had an up and down time. He wrote part of Die Hard. He wrote some of Die Hard. But he also wrote Street Fighter. He's written all sorts of trash and good films. And this one is kind of like, it starts sane and becomes insane as further goes on. There's a whole criticism of a rebellion against the rich, which basically happened because where they attack the studio that are doing the Running Man, as if that makes any difference. That's the end in the film. They attack a TV studio. That's it. There's still a whole fascist regime out there that can come and kill them. But they reveal to the people that this is a corrupt system, which everyone knew in the first place. And it's just like, it goes on and on. It's like Schwarzenegger early on is set up as a mass killer in a world full of mass killers who do stuff to the government. And I said, oh no, he's a mass killer. He's a villain you should be scared of. And there's this idea of all the people have had their minds warped by all this consumerism. But the reality is, in consumerism, is people who are consumers don't care where the things come from. They're not going to be moralistic with any stuff. If you point out to them the fact that all these people are dying to make your life easy, they would be like, well, that's a shame. They're acting as if, oh, this revelation going to change anything. It won't. So they just have an ending where the rebels destroy this signal for a short time when they reveal certain things about the government that anybody with a brain would know in the first place. You've still got lots of poor people who are getting rounded up. You've still got a government that's going to kill lots of people. It's just basically like, we don't know how to end this in any good way, so we're just going to attack this TV studio and say that's it, that solves the problem. And it's like, that's an insult to any way a fascist government actually works. You can point in TV what's going on, but that does not mean that people will rise up. Most people look and go, yeah, we know that's life. I mean, look at South America and a lot of the problems they've had there. Everyone knows the government's corrupt. It does not change their lives at all knowing the government's corrupt. It's just like, this feels just dumb as hell. It's like a dumb person trying to look smart. It's that kind of movie. And again, going back to costumes, if Jim Brown in the spandex suit and with this wig with dyed streaks of grey through it, and it's like, I never thought you could make Jim Brown look ridiculous, but they managed to find a way. It's just a terrible film. It's actually staggering to watch just how bad it is. It's one of those films, as you talk about it, it's like you remember things about it, it's like, oh yeah, they did that. That's terrible. And it's just the whole film's just like that. It's just like this kind of, they're taking something that could have been cool and they're making a mockery of it. And the film's just a mess. It's just boring. The second half of the movie is just boring. That's the biggest thing, is I can take stupid but keep the pace up. This thing, it drags on and drags on. Now all the action scenes look second unit. There's no interaction. You can see Schwarzenegger's doing a lot of it, but there's no interaction with his character with any kind of things happening that's actually interesting. So he can get bruised and he can go through all these horrible things. Doesn't matter in the film because what he's doing is boring and silly. He's up against these guys you could just blow at and he'd fall over all this stuff, all the crap they've got on them. It's just a terrible film. It's just utterly awful. It's like Edgar Wright just has to show up, basically, with his film, and it'll be better. Because you can't do anything worse than this. This is the worst possible outcome for this story. So, yeah. Like, if you find the need to go back to watch the original Running Man before the new one comes out, I would suggest not. This is terrible. This is like, I would rather watch Batman and Robin over and over again and watch this again. This is terrible. This is just abysmal. And I used to think it wasn't very good. I thought maybe it's aged fine, and I watched it again. It's like, it's aged terribly. It's terrible. So yeah, awful film. Do not watch. For your own sanity, do not watch. Bye.